Russia launched another wave of drone attacks over Kyiv and other regions in Ukraine for a second night in a row. Ukraine claims it shot down 11 of the 15 devices. Officials say 2 people were injured in a strike that hit southeast of Kyiv. And staying with Ukraine, CBS News foreign correspondent Charlie D'Agata recently got an up-close look at U.S. howitzers being used by Ukrainian tank brigades.
Ukrainian soldiers take us through the woods with explosions ringing out. And from the moment we arrived, the guns of Ukraine's 17th Tank Brigade never fell silent, pummeling Russian defensive positions in the areas around Bakhmut, where the general of Ukraine's ground forces said this week the enemy is caught in a trap, but refusing to budge after claiming control of the shattered, embattled city. But the tank brigade isn't firing from tanks here. These are U.S.-supplied, self-propelled howitzer M109s. After they fire the gun is when this place becomes much more dangerous. They risk giving away their position with every artillery shell that they fire towards the Russians. Further back into the forest, we find the 24-year-old commander, call sign Roman, so laid back he looks like he's on a fishing trip. But he says the fighting goes on day and night. How important are these American weapons to the fight here? The more weapons, the more ammunition, the better, he says. The more precise they are, the more enemies we kill. They're reliable and work well. Drones or forward spotters identify Russian targets and determine the coordinates that are then called into Commander Roman, who radios one of the gun positions. It's then directed to the gunner, who takes aim. Then the orders: ready, shot, fire. An overhead drone surveys the battlefield to see if the shells land on target. At the rate they're burning through the artillery, it's easy to see why they're always asking for more, especially the promise of controversial cluster munitions. They're very useful munitions. They've shown to be effective. The more of them we get, the better, of course. Those cluster munitions can be fired from those very weapons they were using. Yes, they pose a danger to civilians, but troops tell us they're an effective weapon to break through Russian defenses, and they need all the ammunition they can get. Anne-Marie?
A really fascinating look on the ground about those howitzers and how effective they are, Charlie. But I want to ask you some questions about what's going on at the NATO summit. There's been a lot of talk of security guarantees, if not, actually getting into NATO. What are Ukrainian troops on the ground saying that they actually need?
Well, Anne-Marie, it comes to the phase of the battle. Right now, what you saw is what's happening at many points along that battlefront. We went up to Kupiansk, which is just northeast of here. That was down toward Bakhmut. If you go a little bit further south around the Zaporizhia region, they're trying to push into Kherson. The artillery and artillery shells and ammunition, including those cluster munitions, are controversial, but they are needed. They can be fired from those weapons, needed to break through Russian defenses. When you speak to Ukrainian commanders, they said the Russians have learned to fight, and they've dug in. We remember how long we were waiting for this spring offensive / summer offensive to begin, and it hasn't really begun in any sort of meaningful way in terms of the weaponry. As we understand, a lot of the weapons that have already been supplied, things like the Bradleys and some of the Challengers, the Leopard tanks, they haven't even gone into battle formation, frankly, because they're not on the move. So yes, they'll want these security guarantees. They're desperate to make sure not just that they're getting the weapons, but there's going to be a steady flow of weapons, a continued steady flow of weapons, and they will need anti-aircraft, ultimately F-16s. There's nothing they don't need on the battlefield.
And what has been the reaction in Ukraine overall to the events unfolding at the NATO summit?
Well, you heard President Zelensky's reaction when he saw the statement that was leaked yesterday. He called it absurd. He said it was sort of disrespectful to Ukraine, and it is kind of unanimous. Now, everybody here would like to at least have the promise of NATO membership in the future. It would be a huge boost to morale here. They're realistic about it. They know it can't happen now. The country's at war. It can't trigger Article 5, where it would be defended against by NATO partners. But there are people here who say, look, we're already fighting this battle on behalf of NATO. You may as well commit the same way that we're committed against these Russian forces. So it's almost unanimous that yes, these security guarantees are important. In fact, they're vitally important. But at least the promise, some sort of pathway that in the future there could be membership in NATO, because they feel that that's the only deterrent that President Putin is going to understand.
Yeah, I will say that President Zelensky, prior to the communique coming out, you're right, his words were pretty harsh. He seemed to have perhaps slept on it a little bit and softened the language in his tweets afterwards, talking about how appreciative he is for the support. I can understand why, because he's going to need it for a while. So speaking of support, give us a snapshot of what the situation is on the ground. I think last week we were talking about, and even the Ukrainians had said that the counteroffensive is not going as well, or is not as successful as they hoped, even though they're making gains. So where exactly are we at with this war?
Yeah, well, Anne-Marie, expectations were high. If you remember a few months ago, there was a sort of twin counteroffensive, one that was happening in the south where they were making great gains and pushed the Russians out of the Kherson region. And then they just swept from northeast here all the way south, covering several hundred square miles over the course of a few weeks. That just hasn't happened yet. There have been incremental gains, especially in the southeast, as we understand it, from Ukrainian officials. But in other places, the Russians are actually trying to exploit how stretched the Ukrainian forces are. In places like Bakhmut, they're holding their ground there and trying to push back. In places like Lyman, where there was an attack just a few days ago, they are pushing back in that region too. So it's like trying to push water uphill. They're trying to find a location or an area where they can exploit and punch through a Russian weakness. And once they do, maybe things will move quickly, but they haven't been able to break through. So several hundred square miles along a front line that stretches for several hundred miles. Incremental gains, but they are gaining.
Charlie D'Agata, thank you very much.